Show of hands, who thinks President Trump has done a solid job the first 6 months? So, like, 4. What's his biggest win, biggest accomplishment so far?
I would say the biggest win that he's brought to the table has been the actual conversation about repeal and replace of health care. I think our system is broken, and I think it's important that he's bringing the conversation back to the table as someone who's willing to take action, and that I appreciate.
Marco, what about you? Biggest win so far?
Well, I think he's been able to keep all of his promises. You know, he's had some hurdles, for example, with the travel ban that, you know, the judges kept blocking it and stuff like that. Same thing with the healthcare repeal. You know, he said he's going to repeal it and replace it, and he's fighting for that so hard. It's been an adjustment for him going from a businessman to a politician now. So he's adjusting in that aspect.
Katie, what's the big accomplishment so far?
I would say, consumer confidence. You can't really argue how great our stock market's doing, and I think people feel it.
You think President Trump has brought the markets to where they are?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not going to say that it wasn't going in that direction, but I also feel safer. As an American, I feel safer in the respect that we're not going to bring in Syrian refugees. I'm very fearful of what's happening in Europe. And
terror attacks, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I can tell you that I would rather him be sitting in that seat than anyone else.
Okay. So what about, though, disappointments?
You know, for the past 8 years, they've been saying we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I feel like they only said that because they figure that Hillary Clinton's going to get elected. It's never going to happen. So they will say whatever it energizes their base to get them reelected.
So you put this all on the Republicans in Congress. None of the onus sits with President Trump?
They had 8 years to come up with a better plan, health care plan, everything. They have nothing.
The reality was the bill stunk. Every iteration of this repeal and replace was horrible. And none of these iterations would have addressed the core competencies or the core deficiencies that even conservatives tout. What is more cynical than literally half of the Senate conspiring to pass a bill that on the notion that it actually wouldn't actually be signed into law? You know, that you're going to say, oh, well, we'll just vote on this, you know, for the sole purpose of being able to go back to our constituents and say the most famous lie in politics, we tried.
In the beginning, when we were first talking about the Affordable Care Act, one of the things that was tabled many times was the single-payer option, and it sort of got swept under the rug for all these other more glamorous and glamorized options, which are all beginning to implode. It seems like that's the only thing left. I would love for people to be able to make a true capitalistic decision. I just don't know if it's possible.
There is a Republican-controlled House and Senate.
And they're not taking advantage of it.
And they're not taking advantage of it.
And that's not Donald Trump.
You're not putting that on.
That's useless Republicans.
Useless Republicans. Tell me more. Why are they so useless?
They're absolutely useless. You've got John McCain, who I personally believe John McCain is on Nancy Pelosi's payroll. I mean, whenever you want a Republican to stab other Republicans in the back, you go to John McCain and you go to Lindsey Graham.
War veteran, hero, prisoner of war.
Well, he also campaigned on repealing Obamacare for what, 7 years, and then once he had the opportunity to make that happen, he totally reneged on that.
Thoughts on Senator?
I do. I take real issue with John McCain. I don't think there's a person out there that is happy that he has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. It's horrible. However, the fact that this man that we elected, for the most part, to represent us and our interests in Washington, D.C., how he could stand on the floor on a vote that could give us a better health care system, any degree, anything is better than what we're dealing with right now, with a scar across his forehead, and say that we don't deserve the same level of care that he has.
I think what's going to be so interesting for people watching who just have a different perspective is to hear most of you all say, like, point fingers at everyone else but the president. No one's trying to play the blame game, but does he own any responsibility for virtually 0 major legislative victories in the first 6 months?
Legislative victories. You know, look, I mean,
I'm not talking about signing executive orders. I mean a win in Congress.
Look at the well, the Congress. He's not the one casting the votes in Congress. To think that there was going to be some, you know, it was going to be Camelot, you know, with Donald Trump, I think that's a complete fallacy.
Okay. Who wishes he didn't tweet?
You, obviously, yeah.
3 of you. 3 of you.
Well, I mean, I think I wish he treated more responsibly, put it that way. I mean, Twitter is a useful tool. when used appropriately. I think that, again, when you're literally rewriting DOD policy, 140 characters at a time, that's
that
a
rubbed
problem.
you the wrong way.
But he's the same person that he was when we sent him to Washington. If he had suddenly changed and started filtering everything that came out of his mouth, that would have been more of a concern for me. FDR had the fireside chats to speak directly to the American people. JFK had television. Donald Trump has social media.
You have to call a spade a spade. He brings it on himself sometimes. The tweeting, I'm the first person to say. I understand him using...
You don't love it?
Not at all. Not at all. I understand him using social media as an outlet because he believes that certain media outlets are fake news, and I understand him wanting to have a voice and hearing it directly from the source. But there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it, and we like that about him. That's, I think, why half of America voted for him. But the thing is that the other half of America, they're scared off of him.
Nicole, starting with you, Russia. When I say Russia, you say...
There's no reason why we can't forge an amicable relationship where the United States remains in control.
Self-inflicted wounds.
There is no connection with Russia that is substantial compared to the Clinton Foundation. And people tend to forget that we spent the first 8 years of the Bush II, doing recounts and with the opposition party trying to discredit the election. And I think that's exactly what's happening here.
Keep your enemy closer. This is not the Cold War anymore. There's no reason that we cannot try to salvage some sort of relationship with them as long as, they stay in line.
Okay. Show of hands, who believed Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election?
Interfered?
Interfered.
I mean, what define interference?
I'm saying the intel chiefs. I'm saying CIA, FBI, NSA, Office of Director of National Intelligence all say that Russia interfered in the election.
They've interfered in every election, and they interfered
Hang on, just so I'm clear. So is that a half hand raise? Like, do you agree with the Trump's intel chiefs?
The intel clearly, to me, supports the fact that there was attempted Russian interference. I don't believe that Russia changed the outcome of this election. I think that that's the problem that individuals on the right have. This kind of nuanced assertion that somehow Russia is responsible for Donald Trump being president of the United States.
Define what the interference was. Was it cyber hacks on our political parties? Was it, was it hacking into voting machines and changing numbers?
These chiefs were saying it was Russia with the DNC sharing the information with WikiLeaks.
I mean, a lot of people are saying that that Seth Rich was the source for that. Even Julian Assange says
But that story has been entirely debunked. It's been retracted by Fox News. Fact.
Okay, so Russia does cybersecurity stuff, hacking. Okay, we do too, and so does China. So does, this happens across the board, and this is kind of the environment that we're living in right now.
How do you reconcile hearing multiple versions of events from multiple people within the Trump White House?
There is a daily chipping away at the credibility of this administration executed by the administration. And again, it's incumbent on us, to me, as Republicans, as conservatives, to say, just be transparent.
We're in peril times right now, so this is where we need to be focused on, not who's colluding with Russia. Let those departments handle that. We need to reorganize and shape the direction of this country.
Thank you guys so much.